Welcome back to my channel. Beep.
Doesn't matter because it's just me and Jessica. We cut that, Jessica. Cut that part.
Comment, like, subscribe. Beep, beep.
All right, welcome back to our podcast, which looks for spiritual context within everyday worldly chaos. Today, we usually would have done an interview with the person that we just aired. And since Brandy couldn't join us again, Jessica and I thought that we'd take this opportunity to begin our episodes between the two of us to show all of you what our podcast will look like later in the year. Because once these interviews are over, Jessica and I are going to dive deeper into specific topics that we want to find that context in. For this episode, I thought I'd take the opportunity to ask Jessica some questions that pertain to things that we talk about on air, off air, and just get a little bit more into her brain about where she is with her spirituality, where she is with her mind, and what she's looking for when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to her own evolution. I know she's so ready for me to turn the spotlight onto her. So, Jessica, I want to know something because we haven't really been able to talk a lot together since we've been doing interviews. I was wondering what it is that you enjoy talking about in terms of these larger spiritual narratives, or what context do they live in for you, or just life on a grander level? What makes you feel like you're connecting in conversation when it comes to these, bigger ideas?
Yeah, that's a huge question. My way of communicating is evolving, like actively changing as I've explored new relationships that have allowed me to discuss ideas that I'm actually curious about. Never been one for small talk, and yet that dominates most conversations, whether it's with acquaintances or, close friends, or, I've always been the friend that people go deep with, which has been a point of contention for myself.
Because of oversharing?
Yeah, I want to occupy shallower waters, not in depth, but in subject matter. I don't want to be processing trauma. Interpersonal analysis is killing me, as I've had it written on my mirror for a decade now. But for context, I feel like a 6-year-old developmentally, having gotten sober 6 years ago and unraveling, untangling, dismantling, repairing all the many sort of mechanisms that have been in place to keep me alive.
Mm-hmm.
And safe, considerably. So it's been a matter of letting go of my ego, becoming comfortable with the possibility that I could be incorrect or not know the facts, using logic over intuition and instinct, and stepping into that cerebral space where it's playful, it's fast, it's ever evolving. There's a back and forth. So instead of interpersonal analysis, I'm stepping into interpersonal relations to expand the conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions though. One is, okay, so at the beginning of me ask this, your answer, you said that you felt like you couldn't have a relationship if you were to be a more deep or contextually rich person, that you can't see yourself having a successful relationship, or at least that's how I took it. Is that not right?
No, that's correct. Yeah.
So then my question is what do you think you're going to lose if you allowed that side of you? What do you think is the barrier that is built between you and another person if you, I don't know about lead with it, but definitely deepen?
This isn't going to resonate with listeners because if people are listening, they are doing this work. But most people aren't asking these questions, aren't looking at themselves, are not looking at themselves in this way. A local bar owner and fast becoming friend recently said to me, we were just bantering. He's a quick guy, and we were bantering. He stops me, he pauses me, and he asks, do you think that this way of thinking, the way that you think and the way that you view the world and your methods of analysis, do you think that they get in the way of, or do you think that a partner might find that it gets in the way of you and them? And I laughed because he was so on the nose. More often than not, this type of self-reflection or analysis of just life and all, following the red threads and whatnot, it is met with contention or resistance.
Like, do you feel like you trigger people then?
Yeah, because I've gotten labeled as an overthinker. I'm always chewing on something. I'm always thinking. They can see my gears turning, and it's met with contention more often than not, especially from partners.
So it's more so about their feeling of equilibrium than yours.
Exactly.
Commenting, at least physically or if not intuitively, on something that you just naturally do.
Yeah. This doesn't feel like work. It's just an operating system, just as we choose between iPhones or Androids.
And it's been brought up, and it's been more so looked at as, well, you maybe should lighten up, or you should not feel so deeply, or let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
So for you to stay flexible, nimble, quick on the surface, toe to toe, is, I know I have a better shot at our relational, I guess, tilled soil. Like, we can actually grow something here.
Mm-hmm.
If I show you that I'm not always inside of myself, I'm not always going over things within, like, that you aren't a part of, that you can't see, that you can't get to. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're digging and digging and digging and digging, it's just going to be the same soil unless you back up and add to it.
Yeah.
That's the type of conversation that I'm looking for, is enriching and expansive. But none of that can happen unless the person you're conversing with is down to go deep, to dig, to get into it. Doesn't mean you always have to, but you just know it's safe to go there.
So you were telling me about a person that you really enjoyed talking to, and that you felt like you were really in your element in those conversations, and that it really showed you that it's possible to engage in that way and to feel like you were a part of it, and not just maybe a person on the sideline, or a person who's still learning, or a person who's locked out, right? I'm curious, and I'll throw in the fact that you are a Gemini rising. I'm curious if it started with topics that you'd eat, or if it went with this person introduced you to the Goddess book. Is it something like, okay, I want to eat this thing, or I want to get up into the intellectual idea of something that is beyond what most people think about, but it's not necessary. It's allowing it to come out of my body rather than living constantly in my body.
In a way, I felt seen. I was just getting to know this person, and I felt seen because the subject matter was pertinent to where I was at in that moment in my life. And so that established trust with which I could explore saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Because it's so much easier to coast through conversations and just say, yeah, yeah, because they're going to give context. They're going to give lore, or just mansplain or explain. Sorry, they're going to explain. Yeah, so if you just say, because it doesn't matter. It's not what they're telling me about, it's why they're telling me about it. I don't need to have listened to the band to connect. It's why they're telling me. That's the meat and the bones. So just saying, it's so much, it's become a habit of mine to just say, okay.
So twinning with the Gemini. So like, like, okay, I see you. I'm here. I'm with you. And this one person actually said, I want to talk about wisdom. And you were like, whoa, wait, what? You want me to kiki about wisdom? Wait, hold up. Wait, what? It wasn't Kiki about, monster truck driving. It wasn't Kiki about, climbing Mount Everest. It wasn't, it was, I like talking about spirituality, and I like actually like talking about it and just rolling around in my mind. So all of a sudden, maybe your Gemini twin went, hold on, you just like that? Like that's the thing you like?
Yeah.
And maybe your own like need to get into conversation with somebody got met with something you actually really like talking about that you didn't maybe think other people, especially maybe sometimes men, don't like talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it's more of a sense of a reflection on oneself, when the male ego is more about conquering and pursuing and ambition and having an identity and sticking to it,
Yeah, it was suddenly finding, like, we'd be sitting in a smoothie shop talking about deep, familiar, generational wounds, active and past and present.
Trauma.
I don't know what it was exactly, because it's what I talked to you about, but there was something in the way that we communicated where I didn't feel like a projector sitting on the sidelines and just listening and watching, and like I didn't feel like an observer. I felt like I could participate, like something in me was provoked, like I had something to say.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about me. For the first time in my whole life, I had something to say that wasn't about me or how I felt about it. It was just ideas, concepts.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you now then, because we were mulling over this yesterday and maybe a week ago, and we definitely touched on it before. If you could, from your own perspective, it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with what I've built or learned or want for the future. If you could orient this podcast, how would you lead with your own conversation? What do you think would be the thesis of this?
Yeah, so that is the sort of the approach that I'm taking into this endeavor with you, is taking myself out of it, finding what people are excited to talk about, people that you and I interview. What are they doing? Why are they excited to talk about it? Why are they excited to do it? Because that's the most important thing, is why, never how, just why. How comes later. And then as we transition into the seasons and exploring the lenses and the modalities and the subject matter, I just really want to be authentic and encourage authenticity from you and people as they come onto the show and people who are listening. I want, because I want. It's the most important thing in the human experience, is interpersonal analysis. It is the most complex thing that we do. Our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to others, whether it's romantic or non-romantic. Everything should be romantic, by the way.
Amen.
And so just to explore with abandon that authenticity of what makes us us, to just be a vessel for that exploration, like both the explorer and the spaceship.
I loved that you said the word why, because a lot of people, I think, who are approaching spirituality, they have this perspective that it's all or nothing, right? That you have to believe it, you have to take it all, and then things work out. Or if you don't, if you have questions, if you're skeptical, if you're even defensive towards it, that you have the right to not only ask why, but to also say, you might not give me a good enough answer. And it's not that we need to be confrontational with anybody, but what I remember when I really started growing spiritually was that, there's going to be a person that we talk to about purpose. And that was a really annoying concept to me. Like, what does that mean? And also, like, what, like, yeah, I've heard people say two different things. That should be your career, and that you should feel completely in alignment with your career, and that you should feel like you're putting something out there. And then there's other people who are like, your purpose could be being a mom. It could be charitable work. It could be a sport that has nothing to do with like money or whatever. It's all these different things. But no matter what, so many of us are still trying to figure that out, trying to figure out some kind of purpose. And I still can't decide whether it is linked to capitalism or if it is linked to spirituality. And that's something I'm still trying to understand. And so if I don't remember to ask those questions, because sometimes I try to ask questions that are a little bit further out just to feed another side of me. But that is exactly what I expect somebody to ask or to have someone clarify for them so that they feel more oriented and grounded in an answer, even if that answer is still slightly broad. It gives them enough room to live in that answer. And it's not like, oh, slam dunk. It's like maybe you want a little more. So you're like, okay, I get that. But then why this? I think that might be nice for you to get permission to say to yourself, like, I'm not just supporting their expertise. I'm also really curious of what else is in there if I ask these certain questions.
Right. The only agenda is just to explore and to find and uncover and share. And today we're talking about the future of spiritual context for chaos, for worldly chaos, SCWC, and what that looks like.
Yes.
We've been doing interviews. That's been great to just develop our banter, right? Would you say?
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly right.
We're developing our systems. But in the future, we're looking, what are we doing, Vanessa? We're breaking things down into seasons.
Yeah.
We're looking at spiritualism through the seasonal lenses of topic. Right.
Yes. We're first going to do like a little interim transition because we want to start on the solstices and the equinoxes. So you're going to hear interviews and then like a little bit of a moment, just me and Jessica. And then we're going to start on love in the summer because summer of love.
The summer of love 2026.
Of course. So we're going to talk about everything from attachment styles, which is a very grounded or mental way of looking at it, to twin flames, to toxic relationships, to powerful bonded relationships. Why is marriage actually a big deal, or should it be abolished? Like, there's a lot of different perspectives on love that we don't really know how to look at without a social trigger.
Right.
And if we dismantle that social trigger and build a bridge each season, not necessarily to an answer, but to I see, that feels good, or I see where we're trying to go. There's something here. Love isn't going away. When we talk about grief isn't going away. Your need for purpose isn't going away. Like, those are the topics we want to talk about, are things that are not going away. They're never going to go away. So how do we know them? How do we understand them now?
Exactly. That's that spiritual context for the chaos of love. Like, the worldly subject matters, the worldly chaos. That's love. That's grief. That's purpose. That's identity structures.
Exactly.
We're going to explore all that through developing spiritual context. And what would you say spiritual context is?
Love that you asked that question. So to me, and I think that this will be broad enough that other spiritualists may agree, but who knows? Spiritual context is the ability to float on the ocean without thrashing. It is your right to be here and your right to actualize what it is that you feel compelled to do. Now, obviously, there are plenty of people that push against that, but I think in a spiritual world or spiritual perspective, we imagine that most people want something better for themselves and for the world around them. Each person is their own unique flavor of that. They have their own unique moments in time that are only immortalized in the thoughts and the memories of other people around them, in pictures and video, in books and that's the context, right? Is like, how did I live this life? What did I learn from this life? What would I tell my great grandchildren about this life? What I tell my society about this life? And widen it to something, or go about these different topics to ask, what is it that we're thrashing about with? And how do we become more calm? And maybe that's my Libra sun in like a bigger way, is I feel that everyone has the right to feel comfort in their own journey through the ups and downs of life, the inevitable moments that are completely unfair, the families that we're born into that we do not understand and don't feel close to, the friendships that we lose, the people who adopt us along the way, the house that we wanted and lost, or the financial support that we wanted and we lost. Like, there's so many things that happen to us that spirituality is necessary for us to feel like I have hope. I can get up in the morning because there is something that is allowing me to feel centered in the fact that we're all going through that. We're all going through these ups and downs. So I know that that's like really, really broad, but like spirituality to me is, it's not your ego. It's not your body. That benefits from spirituality. Your body benefits from spirituality.
Spirituality is the lifeboat that saves your body and your ego.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because you're out in the middle of an ocean, which is what it feels like as a human. If you didn't have any orientation, if you had no attachments, if you couldn't speak, if you couldn't have the 5 physical senses, you're just floating on a matrix out in the middle of nowhere. And if you tell yourself there's land, you're going to start swimming. And guess what? You'll drown, because all of your body will get too weak and you will drown. So the only thing you can do is float. The second you try to go up against the vicissitudes of life, you get exhausted, you start becoming depressed. And it's not to say you shouldn't go up against obstacles, but what are the obstacles? How well do you know yourself that you want to take on certain obstacles, or that you want to take on more ease? Knowing yourself more, knowing yourself and feeling that safety of I and everyone are just trying to know ourselves. We're just trying to get through this thing and remember good stuff and get through hard stuff. And yeah, like that might be like super hallmarky, but that's how I see it right now. And maybe 2 years from now, I'll have a better answer. I would actually love to answer this 2 years from now.
Great. I'll put it on the calendar.
Yay. Notify us 1 hour before.
Okay, so if that's what spiritual context is, we have some time between interviews and diving into the Summer of Love 2026. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do in that time. We have a loose idea, right? We're going to cover some personality exploration tools. Do we call them personality quizzes?
Quizzes. Yeah. We're going to find out some stuff. We're going to find out some stuff about ourselves. You get to take the quiz. You can find out some stuff about yourself. It's going to be a nice little segue into looking really deeply into one topic about ourselves. I think this is so fun.
Yeah, we're getting our uniforms.
Yes, exactly.
We're getting our uniforms, and then we're going to run some plays. I don't know why it's always sports, but here we are. I bought a basketball.
What?
I bought a basketball a few days ago, and now it's just sports brain.
Everyone needs to understand. Yesterday, I'm talking to Jessica, and she's eating a massive carrot. It's so random. And now she has a basketball. This is Jessica. She'll have this new random thing that you're like, I am so excited to see you get so curious about this new item that you've got in front of you. I really hope you get freaking good at basketball. You totally would be very good at it.
Thank you. So in the couple of weeks, we've got about 8 weeks, right, between interviews and summer launch. So for those 8 weeks, we are going to explore values. We're going to look into chart rulers. We're going to explore erotic archetypes.
Yep.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I know.
And then, as a perfect segue into the Summer of Love, we will discuss love languages. It's going to be a riot.
It's going to be excellent.
we're going to present these things to one another. Then we're going to go in, we're going to get our own results, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss not only our results, but all of the possible results, right? Then we're going to hopefully bring on a professional and expert.
Yeah, like attachment styles and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Actually, we're not going into attachment styles because that is a meal in itself. So
It is.
we're going to bring on a special guest to break that down, to unravel it.
So we can ask a bunch of whys. Why is this? Why that?
So we don't break into fisticuffs. And that's going to lead us into the summer. And so until then, we go into that transitional exploration when, Vanessa?
April 13th. April 13th is the first one that will air. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start exploring these personality structures or identifiers, or we're going to start taking the personality quizzes.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's going to be fun.
So look for that.
Look for those and start thinking about love yourself. We will be starting a new idea called Pass the Salt. And Pass the Salt is all about offering us what your flavor is, what your little extra pinch is on the topics that we are talking about. And since we're going to be talking about love, that is where we're going to start. So if you have any ideas, any songs, any stories, questions, please pass us the salt and tell us what you want us to either air or what you want us to talk about or how you want to engage with us about love. I would love to hear about it. Jessica would love to hear about it. She and I talk constantly about love because I think it is the most visceral experience of everyday life right now, especially with so many dating apps and so much freedom as a young person in the world. You know, there's not these like crazy ties on, women especially.
Yeah, we're not obsessive, but we're obsessed.
Exactly. Because we don't have to rely on a man for financial stability. So we get to be choosy. So just think about it. I'm going to start putting up something that's like a form to get your all's ideas about love. We want to hear things like your favorite love songs or stories or what you want from love, questions you have about love. So just keep an eye out for that. And Jessica and I will introduce when that starts up, and we'll remind you all to check it out and submit to it. I also want to say that our introductions are going to be more Jessica and I talking about what we were curious about before going in to the conversation that we have with the interviewers, because I think that we both have so much on our minds about what it is that we want to hear from them. And it feels so good to talk about that before we walk in that you're going to start hearing more of Jessica and I talking starting next week. So this is really exciting for us to also have our little transition alone in this interview way, but before we start moving on to just she and I think both of us are really excited to kiki with all of you.
Yeah.
Yes. Why are we doing this?
We're doing this because Vanessa's in Brooklyn, I'm in Oregon, listeners are all over the world. So this is us entering the space together.
Yes.
Getting settled in for what's to come, which is Taylor.
Exactly. Why are we doing this? Why do I want to know about astro-cartography? Because I want to know, I have not been able to leave New York for 20 years, and I just don't know personally where I would even want to go. And I think astro-cartography is fucking awesome.
Absolutely.
So I would love to hear from her, why I would even choose one place over another, or what is it that I'm looking for when it comes to a place that might light up on my chart. What is it that it's going to give me, or what are the opportunities or the challenges that would befall me? I'm so freaking curious.
So curious. And Taylor's joining us from Los Angeles, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But you met her in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So we're jumping in.
Yes. Yeah, we are.
Perfect. We've got 2 more months of weekly interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun. And then we're going to do a little bit of a segue that we just talked about. And then we're going in.
Yeah.
We're going in.
Yeah. This is super fun.
But before that, we have Taylor. Spoiler alert, we're going to ask Taylor about astro-cartography.
Yes.
So that's going to be fun. That's going to be cool. It's going to be great.
This is a topic that I actually know the least about in astrology. So I
know nothing but Alaska.
So I met her at Eugene where we used to work, and she had a big map out, and I'd heard that she knew astrology, and I was like, what are you doing? And she was looking at astro-cartography and looking at where she would fit best, what it all meant. So I don't know how much more she's dived into it, but I know that back then she was already looking into it. And I was like, oh my God, I am so excited to talk to Taylor about this. I am so excited. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I think according to my astrocartography chart, I was supposed to be in Los Angeles, and New York is the hardest place for me to be in. Yeah, no. I know. I was like, oh my God, but I grew the most here. So then maybe that, I took that Saturnian nature on and was like, I need to grow. I want to really develop as a person. And I can't wait for this conversation. I am super excited.